I know that by making a video like this, probably a ton of real estate agents here in Miami are probably gonna hate me, but I don't care. Because my loyalty is with you, my loyal viewers. And I wanna make this video especially for you. And you might think I'm kinda crazy because I'm a real estate agent here in Florida and I'm telling you not to buy Miami real estate. But that's exactly what I'm gonna tell you to do in today's video. So let's check out the reasons why. Now make sure you stick around to the end because I'm also going to give some reasons at the end of this video of who should buy Miami real estate right now, despite all the reasons I'm about to mention. Now let me first start off this video by saying that no matter what I say in this video, people are going to do whatever they want at the end of the day anyhow, and I really don't see this YouTube video making such a huge splash or impact on the Miami real estate market where people are just going to stop buying real estate here altogether. That's not going to happen. Even one of the most famous real estate companies in the world could come out and make a video like this, and it probably would barely even affect sales. But the reason I want to make this video is because some of you are moving to Florida and some of you are even moving to this area in Miami, and so I want to go over some reasons of why I think you shouldn't buy Miami real estate right now. The first reason, it's expensive here, okay? And I think Miami real estate is overpriced. That's my personal opinion after living here in Miami Beach for 12 and a half years and working in the real estate industry now for a little over 11. And I remember when I first started in real estate how much real estate here costs, and it was right at the beginning of the crash because I started real estate here in 2009, and that's when the prices were pretty much at an all-time low in Miami, and I've seen it rise so much since then that the prices now pretty much no longer make sense. And what I mean by makes sense is that kind of pushes you directly into the next point that I'm going to make. I made a video which you can check out here, and that video is all about does it make more sense to buy or rent in Florida. And in that video I go over the numbers and give you the breakdown of how much it will cost you to own a place versus rent a place here, and that way I give you the formula so you can check out and see if owning or renting makes more sense for you and if the numbers match up and just what makes more financial sense. So in Miami, a lot of times the case ends up being that it's just cheaper to rent here than it is to own. And that's not true in all cases across the board. It really depends on the property, the price point, your budget, the location. A lot of different things go into this. But in general, it's just a lot cheaper to rent a lot of times than own. And I gave a specific example in that video that if I were to buy the condo that I live in right now, it would cost me a little over $4,000 a month to own this place, and by renting it, I'm only paying about $2,300 a month. So the cost to own it would literally be almost double. Of course, there are tax benefits to owning the property, and you get to have deductions on your tax return and things like that. I still don't think it's worth it because I would rather pocket the difference and use that money to invest and just make myself richer by gaining assets and just having more investments available to me, and I think that's the smarter play in the long run. And this is the perfect segue to go directly into my next point of why you should not buy real estate in Miami. If you are an investor, you want to buy a property that's going to give you a decent return on investment, right? Your perfect ROI. And a lot of investors want to have at least a 10% ROI or more. I know in some areas it's common to have less, especially in very expensive areas like California and places like that. But as an investor myself, I really probably wouldn't even buy a property that had less than an 8 or 9% ROI. That would be like the very, very minimum baseline. And here in Miami, it's almost impossible to find a property that meets that criteria. Unless you're willing to pay cash for the property to increase your ROI, by financing a place here and getting a good investment property deal is almost impossible. And I think that's one of the main reasons I would say not to buy real estate here, because from an investor's point of view, it's almost impossible to make money on any type of investment right now, given that the prices here are so high and overinflated. Another big one is sea level rise. I've seen a few people ask me about that in the comments recently, and it is a realistic threat here in Miami. In fact, a lot of people say that Miami and Miami Beach are ground zero for for sea level rise because this is a very low-lying area in Florida. In Miami Beach, for example, like the tallest place above sea level in Miami Beach is about 14 feet, but on average, most of the city is around 7 feet. That's kind of how it is where I live here. So you don't have a lot of leeway for sea level rise here in Miami Beach. And that's a big problem, especially when you're buying waterfront property. But even without waterfront property, the flooding here can be pretty significant when we get heavy rainfall and you combine that with high tides or a hurricane, and the flooding rises so quickly. And basically the reason why that happens here is because Florida is basically made out of limestone. Underneath the sand here and the dirt is limestone. And limestone is a very porous rock. And so what happens when it floods here, the water will literally rise up from underground. And that catches a lot of people off guard. It even has caught me off guard many times. And that's why whenever it's heavy rainfall or high tide or both, the water level can rise so quickly here and seemingly out of nowhere, even with just a couple inches of rain. If you own real estate here, obviously flooding is a big problem. You have to pay a lot of extra money for flood insurance, and if you finance your property like 99% of people do when they buy, you have to buy flood insurance. It's not optional. So you need to have your homeowner's insurance plus your flood insurance, and just those two things alone can be pretty expensive. The flood insurance, I believe, is actually even more expensive than the homeowner's insurance. And that's because if you're in a high risk area for flooding, like here in Miami or Miami Beach, you're required to have it, and the insurance companies know that there's a very high likelihood that you might be making a claim in the near future. Another reason you should not buy Miami real estate right now, or maybe even real estate anywhere right now, is because of the whole illness that's been going on, and it's still going on. Even though a lot of places are opening up, even here in Florida, it's still a problem, okay? Nobody knows what's going to happen with the illness. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the economy, if things are going to pick up or get better. Just no one knows. It's a big mystery. If we would have been having this conversation just a few months ago, then I probably wouldn't be so concerned about buying more real estate or investing in more real estate for the long run. But right now, for example, if you were to buy a property for $300,000 and then next year the price goes down massively because there's a flood of foreclosures on the market because people can't make their house payment and the economy gets worse, and now that house is only worth $200,000. It's not a big deal if you're holding onto that property for the long run, maybe 10, 20, or 30 years, but if you're trying to do flips, you're going to lose a ton of money. If you are buying the place and then suddenly you need to sell a few years later, you're going to lose a lot of money. And that's why it's very risky to buy real estate right now, unless you know for sure you're going to be holding it for the long term. And even then, if something like that does happen and the economy does take a turn for the worse, it can take decades for the real estate market to completely recover to where it is now. And one of the main benefits of owning real estate is being able to take advantage of what they call appreciation. That's when the price of the property rises over the years, and then when you sell it, you get to pocket the difference. But if the prices crash right after you buy, and then it takes many years or even a couple decades for the prices to return to what you paid for it, you're not going to make any money when you sell the property, and you're not going to see any appreciation. So that's why I think it's very risky to buy real estate right now in general. So now that I've given you a lot of the reasons why you shouldn't buy, I just want to jump into who should buy real estate right now here in Miami. I think if you know for sure you're going to be moving to Miami for the long term, you're making a commitment to live here for at least 10 years or longer, I think you will be pretty safe to buy real estate even given the current prices and situation, because as long as you've done your homework and you realize that the cost of ownership for you is going to be less or about equal what it would be to rent, and then you could take all the other advantages of owning like depreciation and deductions on your tax returns and things like that, then it will make sense for you to buy a property if you just know for sure you're going to be here for a long time and living in that property for a long time without needing to sell it. then it would probably make sense for you. Another person it would make sense to buy Miami real estate for is if you're pretty wealthy and you're looking for a second home and you have your eye on South Florida or Miami in particular, and you can afford to just pay cash for the property or afford to pay a second mortgage, no problem, and just leave the property sitting there empty for as long as you please and not worrying about renting it or being able to make a return on your investment and buying it as an investment. If you're going into it with the mindset of a second home or just, a playhouse, then I think that would be just fine, because obviously then you can afford it and you're not worried about losing the extra money every month by holding on to a property like that. And you probably also aren't concerned about the prices dipping because of the economy or whatever else is going on, because if you can afford to do something like that, then chances are this isn't a concern for you anyhow. So that's my current take on the Miami real estate market. I know it's probably not what some people want to hear if you are actually thinking about moving here and buying a place, but like I said at the beginning, people are going to do whatever they want anyways, and this video is just strictly my opinion. Anybody can have an opinion, guys. I just want to give my 2 cents being in the real estate market here, not only living here, but working in the real estate market. And that's what I see going on, and that's what I see as the future here in Miami. And it's also just something I pay attention to, obviously being in the business. So I figured this would be a good topic for me to make a video on. But if you still want to keep on hanging out with me, I got some really good news. I got some more videos for you to check out and watch right over here, and I'll see you guys over there in that next video.